welcome back to the SWG podcast. I'm here with my good friend Edith Alaverdyan, and she is the author of a really new, exciting book for moms.
Yes,
right?
Correct.
And I was excited and proud of her. We used to be colleagues in the past, and it's really great to see her grow and take her skills out to moms. And so I couldn't wait to just catch up and hear all about how this book started and where it all began. So I'm gonna say, congratulations to you on this project. Tell me about it. Like, how long have you been developing this?
Well, Stephen, first off, I'd like to thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. It is a pleasure, and of course, I am also very proud of you and your growth in this industry. And the answer to your question, the book was actually developed when I struggled with postpartum depression.
Oh, okay.
I had my son in March of 2013, and the first night that I came home from the hospital, I had like a really bad panic attack. And that panic attack didn't go away. It stayed with me for like 6 months. So imagine having a panic attack every day for 6 months.
Got it.
Yeah, and
how often does that happen to women or to new moms?
Postpartum is very common. Mm-hmm. It actually happens to every single mom, but they experience it on different levels. So the first level is the baby blues, we call it. That lasts about 1 to 2 weeks, where it's just severe hormonal imbalance, where your body and your mind, they're both trying to jump back to what it was before.
Yeah.
So it takes time. So a lot of women experience depression, anxiety, panic attacks, frustration. They report loneliness, disconnect from their child, and most importantly, disconnect from themselves. So imagine this, what's happening for a woman that just becomes a mother? She's literally grieving over herself. So she has transitioned into this different person. That she's responsible to take care of this cute little child for the rest of her life.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is a huge shock. So what's the first stage of grief? It's shock.
Yeah. Right?
So it's a sense of losing yourself. It's a sense of disconnecting, kind of like how does a butterfly form into a butterfly? Right? So if you think about the transition, it's kind of like that. You are stepping out of this shell that you've had for years and growing into this butterfly who's, it's a completely different experience, a completely different body, a different way of functioning, processing, thinking. And you not only are thinking for yourself now, you're thinking for another person.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question about that. So what about second-time moms? Does that still happen? Less frequent? Not at all? Yeah.
Great question. Absolutely. It still happens because remember, postpartum is all about hormonal change. So now you're a mom of 2. Not only do you have to get used to taking care of 2 children, but now you're starting to process things differently, like how to do, take one kid to school and prepare lunch for the second and do laundry, but there's more laundry. And so it's kind of like adjusting now to 2 children instead of 1. So it's the responsibility is added. It just, it never goes away. And this is why women experience extended postpartum, because it's not addressed. So if you were to address the situation immediately, not let it go on and on, you wouldn't have to experience postpartum for such a long time.
Why do you think it's not addressed? Because people don't recognize it's happening, or the family?
Both.
Okay.
There's a cultural factor here. There's psychosocial, environmental dilemmas there. There's a lot of things. Some people can't afford therapy.
Yeah.
So they figure, I'll do it on my own. And then it gets worse. And then postpartum, 6 months, that's depression right there already.
Okay, yeah.
So postpartum is not supposed to last until, that long. But if it does, then it's a diagnosable matter. Then you go into depressive symptoms, depression. So you're not supposed to let it stay. You're supposed to take care of it immediately. But yeah, it's definitely, it's people don't know about it. They're aware of their experience and what they're going through, but they're not very mindful of what's happening.
People have heard it, but don't really know what it looks like,
Absolutely. And women grow disconnected. You become so disconnected from yourself. You don't know who you are anymore. You lose a sense of self-love, self-respect. And when that lingers, it just puts you in, then now you're in the mental health bracket.
I see.
And you got kids you need to take care of.
Yeah.
And a house, and you have a job, and you have your husband. and relationships become strained because of that. So there's a lot.
What comes to my mind too now, I can't help but think about all the, when we worked in homeless services together, the you take all that you just explained, and then throw in also everything that goes along with not having a place to sleep, and all that other, and then all the other stuff that just comes along with that too.
Yes.
That was probably. Did you ever have any clients that you worked with that also were that you knew, but maybe the other workers didn't exactly recognize it? That type of thing, just like from your experience?
I did, yeah. I had one woman I was working with. She had severe postpartum, and she came from a different culture, a different background, very religious, and when she asked for help, they looked at it as a shameful thing, not very helpful. So she's, they labeled her
like,
as
what's wrong with you?
Shaming the family.
Yeah.
Like, you're shaming the family. People are talking about us. Pull it together. There's nothing wrong with you. You have healthy kids, that type of thing. So she turned to alcohol, and then she was kicked out, and then there comes meth, right?
Yeah.
So it's a coping mechanism for a lot of people.
It could be another trigger for a whole bunch of other things down the road.
Absolutely. And so, she was referred to us, and, essentially she got housed, which is lucky, but she was lucky for that. But, why should it get to that level?
Right.
Why should you let the disconnect linger? So she shouldn't get to that level. So that is what the book is about. It's more of a journal. So what you're doing is identifying your triggers, identifying your experiences, getting connected back with your identity again. And the questions are very intense. Not questions, I should rephrase that, prompts.
Okay.
The prompts in the journal are very intense. You have prompts like, were you ever breastfed? And you're supposed to say yes or no, and the idea of the question is, first, why would you not want to know that?
Okay.
Breastfeeding is a huge factor of connection between mother and child.
You're saying the prompt was the mother.
Correct. So the person who's writing in the journal is supposed to answer the prompts.
The book is also a tool for the mom.
It's a tool for mothers to reconnect back with themselves again.
Got
so it's a form of self-connection, self-love.
Wow.
Yes.
That's great, because I don't think a lot of books are written in that
absolutely.
way. Yeah.
And the name Memoir is kind of like you are creating your own story. You are the Picasso of your own life. So you create this memoir, and the idea of this was to transfer this onto your kids and your grandchildren, so that they can see your power, they can see your resiliency, they can see and feel your experience even years after that you're gone. And so it's kind of like your story lives. So it's supposed to be your memoir, your story.
Wow.
Yeah.
So and did you develop it all using your own experience, or did you have to do a lot of research?
Absolutely.
Did you do collaborations?
Collaborations. I wouldn't call it collaborations. I think a lot of my patients, they helped, because I worked with a lot of women who were experiencing postpartum, and they were all reporting disconnect from self. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I am. What happened to me?
Had you come up with the idea for the book first, or were you really more inspired by your work, or both?
I think both.
Okay.
And the book took 5 years.
Wow.
So it wasn't an overnight thing.
Wow.
The prompts are carefully thought of.
Yeah.
And if
this wasn't something that was just rushed out.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
It took about 5 years, and I would say research, but I did my own research of who I was treating, and just a lot of women, a lot of patients that inspired me that were going through similar experiences. And I thought, oh my God, this is such a universal issue.
Yeah.
We have got to spread awareness, and we have got to let these women know that there's a book out there that, it could be your safe space.
Yeah.
Without judgment, nobody making fun of you, nobody telling you that, this is shameful. So for sure it's going to be a safe space. And also, yes, experience. Experience was the number one thing. Like, I sat down for years thinking, why is this happening to me? What's going on? And so the prompts are all based on my personal experience. And when I was asking people about it, they all connected. It was like similar experiences. So it was very interesting how it worked out.
Wow. And so, well, when you started out making it was it a journal first and then a book? Did you know it was going to be a book? Did you know you wanted to make it a book, or did it kind of evolve over time?
I honestly, when I started writing, I didn't even know what I was doing.
Okay, sure. That's,
I mean, for real. I think that's how a lot of writers form their stories.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't know.
Were you literally like sitting there typing away, or did you use like different tech? Like I don't like to read, and I don't like to write. So I use like, you know, apps that are out there and programs that help me. I'll just start talking. You know, that's you know.
I think for me, I went to Barnes & Noble and I got myself a really nice, expensive leather journal.
Oh, okay.
And I started thinking, how can I help these women? What can I do? And I started thinking, kind of like reflecting on myself, what would help me? And I know what helped me in the past is journaling.
Yes.
So I went back to Erik Erikson, who's one of the fathers of psychology.
Okay.
And he developed the developmental stages of human beings. So anywhere from ages 0 to, let's just say, 90. And in each stage, let's just say from 0 to 3 years old, a person is supposed to go through a milestone. Okay?
Got it.
Whether it's walking, learning how to talk, in your teens, it's puberty, it's falling in love, trying to find your identity. So I thought about, how can I help these women connect to themselves more? Because a lot of people, somewhere in the developmental stages, it's been kind of blurred in a way because of trauma and stressors. And so I specifically gear the questions based on the stages of Erik Erikson. And so you'll see in the journal, it says, you know, from ages 0 to 3 years old, what did you experience? Now, of course, you're not going to, no mother is going to remember what they did at age, 0 to 3.
Sure.
The idea, again, is to connect you to your caregivers. Hey, mom, was I breastfed? When, the idea is for you to kind of recognize where your developmental stage is normal.
Okay, now I see why you call it prompts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So those are the prompts. And again, the idea of the prompts are to reconnect you with yourself, because we don't think about all these things, but that's your identity.
Sure.
How important it is to know if you were breastfed. How important it is for you to know when did you first start walking.
Right.
It'll put things into right, but it's so important because it's who you are. Why shouldn't you know? You should know.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So those are the prompts. Very detailed. It goes very deep into childhood and teen, and towards the end, I have questions of mothers who experienced birth. So I have birth questions.
Oh, got it.
And
yeah.
Did you experience any trauma in your life? Were you ever abused? How did it feel? Were you ever in love? And then towards the end, it's more goal oriented. So what are you grateful for? What are you thankful for? It gets lighter and lighter, but it's like therapy in a book.
Yeah.
Like 6 months of therapy in a book.
It's like kind of like do-it-yourself therapy.
It is.
Yeah.
It's self-improvement. It's kind of like going to a bookstore and going into the self-improvement section and picking up a journal and filling out the prompts. It's very challenging.
That's absolutely.
Gets a lot of feelings going.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I wanted to learn about this for the SWG podcast. So, I'm interested to know, like, over the 5 years that you said it took to develop, how many times did you go back to the drawing board or change or like shift things around?
100 million times.
Okay.
Honestly.
How many things made it into the final book?
Okay, let me say something. The questions, the prompt, I keep saying questions, but the prompts, I wanted to make it so difficult so that feelings come up.
Okay.
A lot of icky, gooey feelings.
But you changed that?
No.
Okay.
I kept it.
You kept it, okay.
I kind of wrote it myself, and I noticed my anxiety kicking in.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And I was like, the only way that people are going to get over the anxiety is to sit with it.
Right.
You have to sit with it. You can't alter anxiety. Anxiety is your friend. It's trying to tell you something. A lot of people view it as an enemy.
Right, yeah.
It's not your enemy. It's like your inner child screaming for help. So the only way to recognize that is by reading the prompt and writing the prompt and sitting down and processing about the prompt. That's the only way.
It's interesting, and I knew this would happen, even though this is like, your work is for moms, but a lot of the points that you make touch on a lot of the things that I want to also help people with, which is self-care too, right?
Oh my God, yes.
And I think people think that there's that classic, oh, don't be hard on yourself, right? And people think that means like just the inner voice insulting, but it can be more than that.
Yes.
I think if you also neglect to recognize when you're allowing your anxiety to take over, that's also part of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, anxiety is not out there to get you.
Yeah.
It's not out there to ruin your life. It's there to help you. It's like having a person,
your built-in defense
mechanism. Absolutely. And you can't silence it.
Sure.
It's not fair to silence it. Honestly, it's a huge red flag, and it's trying to tell you something's wrong.
Yeah.
So imagine what happens when you alter it with anxiety medications and drugs and alcohol. It's going to get louder and louder and louder and louder, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
That's how postpartum works. If it's not acknowledged, if it's not worked at, and if you're not validated,
well, it's a form of PTSD, right? But it's just very specific to one group.
Yeah, I mean, it's PTSD is an anxiety base. I mean,
right.
You have to undergo such traumatic experience in order to be diagnosed with PTSD, like severely spooked,
So I guess it's like it's more. In some circles, it might seem more natural if you're a soldier that went through war to recognize that obviously you must have experienced high anxiety.
Absolutely.
So now you're gonna need care after that. Whereas it's not as intuitive, like, oh, you just had a baby, that's a good thing.
Yes.
So why should you be all stressed out or going through that, right?
Everybody's minds and bodies different, birthing a child could be also very traumatic for some women.
Oh, sure.
I mean, it is brutal. And so it could be very scary for especially young moms. You see teens that are 14, 15.
I have two new nieces, and I was there not for the birth, but during the birth, period for my sister-in-law. And I think it was 18 hours. I think something like that, and it was not easy.
It's not.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, absolutely. And these women need to be acknowledged. They need a safe space to go to. Honestly.
What was the number you said? How many people? Oh, you said everybody goes through it. Just
absolutely.
in different.
Yeah, every woman goes through it. Some don't recognize it and they just work through it, and some have it for maybe weeks, and some are more intense.
Got it, yeah.
So there's no way that you're not going to go through some form of postpartum, because your body and your mind undergoes such change. And honestly, think about it, the brain doesn't like change.
Oh, no.
Period. No matter what you want to say, the brain hates change.
Yeah.
So if you undergo such change like that, I mean, it's only common sense. You're going to undergo some form of discomfort.
What about preparation? Does your book cover anything like for expectant mothers?
It does not. No, I didn't really cover
it. It's more
for mothers who are already yes, if you're already a mom, you have children already, it's perfect, because that's where the disconnect comes in. I'm so busy taking care of my children and the house, and I just don't have any time for self-care.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So then, you start losing your sense of self. So the idea is to kind of like, hey, let's go back and let's think about your life a little bit. Have you had time for that? Let's sit down and really process what's happened.
Yeah.
Leading to, And so I'm getting actually really good feedback. One of the moms actually messaged me on my Instagram page, and she said, today I woke up and I apologized to myself for neglect.
Is that part of your journal?
Yes, that's one of the prompts.
So she's using your journal?
Yes, she finished my journal, and it was just so special to hear. She said, I apologize to myself for self-neglect. That's huge.
Yeah, right.
That's huge for somebody to really recognize that.
Sure.
And that's one of the prompts. What do you apologize? Today, I apologize myself for...
So being specific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you're supposed to
I talk about that.
Yeah.
In some of my other videos, but also like from a lot of the people that I follow and the experts, it's easy to be very vague, but if you make very specific
Yes.
That's the whole point of the journal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to be very specific because it's different writing it and seeing it. It's different thinking about it, but if you write it, it just feels different.
Does the journal have like sections to it where you revisit other pages or other things? It does.
You can jump back and forth. It doesn't, there are some moms that are not.
It's not like linear or,
Yeah, you can go back and forth. It doesn't matter. I mean, there are some moms who aren't going to remember if they were breastfed or not because their parents aren't alive.
They have to come back to that later.
Yeah, you can always come back to that. But it's very important to complete all the pages.
Got it.
It's so beautiful, and by the time you're done, you're going to be like, wow, my life just flashed in front of my eyes.
Yeah.
The questions are very detailed. They're very serious.
So what comes to my mind too is like when I asked about like prevention and all that. So I'm sure a lot of people who are learning about your journal who are going to hear this and they're probably going to wonder, when are you going to give some tips and tricks about, I can edit it all.
Okay.
Tips and stuff about dealing with or preventing. Is that something that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I actually have been thinking about that. The only thing with that is, it's great to kind of identify things that's happened and take it to therapy with you, because it'll be such a good prompt to kind of get the question going and the therapy session going of, hey, what do I want to talk about today? I wrote about a time when I was abused and a lot of feelings came up. So you start talking about it through therapy session. But honestly, the only preventative care that I would say that's really good for moms is therapy.
I mean, maybe
no book could ever
maybe I mean not necessarily prevention, but like you said, a lot of people just go through it and not know even how to recognize it. You see what I'm saying? So especially since it's so unique to a person. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So
we'll see what happens.
Okay. So when was it released?
October 15th of 2019.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon right now worldwide, so they ship everywhere in the country.
Okay.
And also, I just did a book release December 10th of 2019 at April Bookstores in Glendale.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so I am all about little, small, private bookstores. Like, the goal is to get it to Barnes & Noble, but we'll see. We'll see how things go.
Yeah. I mean, that would be great, but then again, the time has never been easier to do everything. Is it so it's in print form, but do you also have a digital version?
Yes, it's on Kindle.
Kindle.
You can also purchase that on Amazon.
On Kindle.
And there's both.
And can they interact? Like, how does that work where it's like on Kindle, but it does have a journaling aspect to it?
You can write it in your own journal. That's the cool part. I had one of my colleagues who purchased it on Kindle, and she's like, I like to write it. So she wrote down a prompt, and then she concluded in her own personal journal. So you can do that as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can do it in notebook, like whatever. You can do whatever you want with it. This is it's going to be their journal. So.
Got it. So the name of the journal one more time.
Memoirs of a Mother.
Available on Amazon.
Yes, and April Bookstores in Glendale, California.
And then are you doing any more releases?
I am actually. I'm going to do a couple of more.
Okay.
Haven't really picked a bookstore yet. There's so many amazing bookstores, so we'll see. But for sure, the goal is to market it as much as I can, because I know it's going to be really helpful. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think now with this podcast, we're going to take it to a whole nother group of folks who are going to hear this, and all of this is so important, because it's not just about getting bogged down with one type of anxiety or stress. It's about like everybody.
Yes.
So, well, Edith, thank you so much for talking to me about this.
Welcome. Thank you.
I'm going to make sure to put all the links in the notes so that we can make sure people can find you easy. What about Instagram?
Yes, so it's Momfident.women.
Momfident?
Yes.
Like confident?
Yes,
Momfident.
Exactly. Like confident but Momfident.women. Also, Stephen, I have my online programs.
Yeah, oh, that's right.
Yes.
I almost forgot about that. Tell me about that.
This online school is Momfident.women on Teachable.com. We'll link everything.
Okay. Oh, that's what, yeah. Okay.
It's pretty great. And they're more of mentoring and guidance. So I have 3 or 4 programs specifically for like anxiety, depression. Like I have a program that's called Mommy Makeover. Okay. And it's like right after like you have a child, like what are you going to experience and what should you expect and how to kind of overcome the adjustment.
That sounds really, super useful.
It is so useful. It's about an hour and a half. The programs are amazing. You can purchase them. It's yours to keep for a lifetime. I have quizzes in there, material. You can go at your own pace.
Wow.
And they're very, very helpful. They're doing actually very well right now.
Tell me one more time where that is.
Sure. It's on teachable.com. You could just type in Momfident.women and all the programs will come up.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I'll make sure to make it easy for everybody to find you. Thank you again. And
Thank you.
Until next time.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.